This is the Brew World Order Podcast.
Welcome to the Brew World Order Podcast. My name is Mike Hurton. If you haven't subscribed yet, have I got a deal for you. Subscribe now, and you get to listen to the episode for free. And all the other ones as well. What a deal, huh? This is episode number 63, and in this episode, I sit down with Dan Scandiffio and Blau, co-owners of Long Beach Brewing Company in Oceanside, New York. Dan and Brett tell me about the problems they endured while trying to open, who inspired them the most in the brewing industry, and they tell us how during COVID they would literally load up their cars and deliver beer to people door to door to stay afloat. I actually tried that with the Brew World Order Podcast. I went door to door to deliver the good word about the podcast being available on all platforms to people in my neighborhood. I even refused to leave their porch until they subscribed. 2 black eyes and 8 broken ribs later, I still have no followers. So that's good. Care to be my first? I hope you do. And I hope you sit back, crack open a cold one, and enjoy this episode of the podcast. Praise Jeebus. Dan Scandiffio grew up in Brooklyn, New York. He wound up attending high school out in Baldwin, Long Island, and after he graduated, went straight on to help with the family business, Lenny and John's Pizza on Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn. After Dan got married, his father-in-law got him into home brewing beer, and from that point on, they continued to brew more and more frequently. At some point, Dan went through a divorce, which led to a break in his home brewing, but things would pick back up when he would connect with his 2 future business partners. Brett Blau grew up in West Islip, Long Island. He attended St. John's College for TV and would go on to become a video editor. It led him towards a very successful career and won many Emmys for his work. He and his wife moved to Long Beach, Long Island. When his wife got pregnant and was bedridden, Brett decided to get into home brewing. Not knowing many people in the area, he thought it would be a good way to keep busy. One day, he met Patrick Harden, who just happened to homebrew as well, and the two started homebrewing together. Soon thereafter, Patrick introduced Brett to Dan. The 3 began brewing together, and then one day they decided that it was time to open a brewery together. The idea for Long Beach Brewing Company was born, but that was only the beginning. And Dan and Brett are here with me today. Dan, Brett, how's it going?
Hey, Michael, how's it going?
All right, thank you.
How's it going, Mike?
Thanks
for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here. During that whole process, I know it was a very long one. The process from the moment you both decided to open a brewery, from the moment you actually opened your doors. Can you just give me a quick breakdown? Because I know it's a long, tedious process that kind of went down, right?
The first thing was filing and filing and filing and filing.
Right.
It's never ending. It's a never ending paper mountain. It's funny because the TTB is now all computerized, so it's a lot easier. New York State is still a lot of paper. You have to actually put stamps on things and send them in this thing called mail.
Right.
And, you know what? I can't tell us. I totally forgot. Hold on. I forgot to open this up. I'm sorry. So once we filed everything, it was a long, long wait. When we got our licensing, we began contract brewing. I'll hand it off to Dan for the contract brewing part. Let's go back and forth.
Okay.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we kind of met in 2014, and I was introduced to Brett through our ex-partner with, getting this company started. And when we decided to make a go of it, it was like, all right, we're going full on, heads on, balls to the wall. Let's do this. And like Brett said, the paperwork filing took millennia to finish.
Right.
And then when we started contract brewing, we were graciously offered help through Oyster Bay Brewing Company.
Yeah, they were great.
Okay.
They were great.
One of the owners, Ryan, reached out to me. We had met at an event somewhere, and like in jest said, let me know if there's anything I can ever do to help you guys out. So a few months later, he shot me a text message saying, how are things progressing? Do you guys need any help with anything? And I said, yeah, it would be great if you could brew our beer for us for now until we get our equipment all up and running.
Yeah, right.
And he was like, done deal. Come down and talk to our brewer. Let's get this rolling for you. Let's get you out into the market. And we did. We jumped on the opportunity. We released our first beer with them, which was our West Coast style IPA called Ghost Wave.
Right.
And we brewed a few batches with them there. And then they got a little bit too busy to help us out anymore. Basically they had to focus on their own production. So we were introduced to a guy named Dan Moss, who was the brewer over at Fire Island Brewing Company before they went defunct. And they offered to help us out. And then we started contract brewing our beer there for a while. And the good thing was that both companies allowed us to be very hands-on with the whole brewing process.
Right, okay.
Which gave us a lot of insight on what it would be like to run our own facility. So it was really a good training ground for us,
For a lot of levels too, because when we got our first brew from Oyster Bay Brewing Company, they're like, all right, what are you gonna do? Put this in kegs or cans? And our jaws dropped. Like, oh yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
so not only do we have to go out and order, well, we got kegs. That's a whole fun story too that Dan can tell you. But then we're like, we gotta make labels, and everybody looked at me because I work in television, so I had to start making labels, even though I never made a label before. It's funny because running a brewery is a multi-leveled more than a lot of other businesses. I always draw the analogy. Like a shoe store, you pay rent, you buy shoes, you sell shoes. Brewing, It is multi-level on so many aspects. So like dealing with the government, dealing with inventory, dealing with quality control, and then even those little things like the end label, the end process of the whole thing. Right. Yeah. But we love it. We absolutely love it. We learned, like Dan said, from these guys. They were fantastic. They gave us so much knowledge from soup to nuts about the beer industry. So it was great.
Gotcha. So yeah, and for those that don't know, it's a contract brewing is when you ask another brewery to kind of brew your beer, or you brew in their brewery, right? Just so.
Yes, they brew. The true contract brewing is they brew the beer for you. You pay them.
Okay.
And they brew the beer for you.
And
then there's gypsy brewing. Gypsy brewing is when you go to a brewery and then you brew it yourself at their brewery.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's the next step.
All right. And
there's also another term called alternate proprietorship, where another brewery can rent space in your brewery and brew beer on your equipment, but they have 100% control over all of their product because they're actually renting space from you in your facility.
Yes, I've heard of that before.
We do that with a company called 18th Ward Brewing Company in our facility.
Right, they're over in Brooklyn. I've been there before.
Yes.
Yeah. They're great guys too. That's the good thing about this industry. It's everybody's in like a friendly competition. Everybody is out to make some money, but everybody helps everybody out. There's even been cases like with the local breweries around us, South Shore and Bright Eye. Somebody needs a bag of grain or somebody's missing some cleaning chemicals. Somebody will run it over to the other person and help them out.
Right, for sure. The friendly brotherhood.
Great thing about the industry. Right.
So, where did you guys go about finding the capital to fund your business?
We got an SBA loan. We wanted as much as we could to keep the equity within our own possession. So even though the SBA loan is a bear to get and everything, we still have our own equity, and that was our most important thing.
Right. When opening a brewery, what's something you never thought you were going to have to actually deal with? So much?
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Yeah. There are so many things, from, all right, now we made this beer. What do we do with it? Where do we go? Who do we, how do we sell it? What's, we had no experience in this industry whatsoever. We're literally, green at the gills, if you will.
Right.
And, now we had we have a pile of beer. Who do we sell it to? And
how did we do it?
Yeah, that was an aha moment. It was like, aha, now what?
Yeah, for sure.
But then, going out, making the phone calls, hitting the pavement, going to bars, going to restaurants, hitting every beverage center we can and trying to convince them to take in another product while they still have 900 other brands on the shelves. Now you got to kind of convince them, like, why should they buy my beer? Why should they buy, the product from Long Beach Brewing Company that, me and Brett are trying to sell? How do you convince these people to take something else in when they already have, 1,000 different beers in their portfolio, in their beverage center?
Right.
And that was, that sometimes is like, every time you walk in the door, be prepared to get kicked in the nuts, because it happens a lot, where you hear the word no a lot.
Okay, yeah. And I guess you have to
you got to have a thick skin on it.
Be prepared to be a car salesman, so to speak.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Except we're not trying to snow anybody over.
Oh, of course. No, of course not.
Forward and honest as possible. But
Yeah.
like there's so many levels of what we didn't expect. Like even the cleaning of the place. That like the place, 90% of brewing is cleanliness.
Right.
If you don't have a clean place, you're not going to have good beer, and that in and of itself is a whole world. Learning all these different things to make the product perfect. Going from home brewing to commercial brewing is a radical change.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And what do you think is one of the hardest adjustments that you've had to make since opening?
Time management. Yeah.
Management,
because Dan and I both have full-time jobs.
Okay.
We have families. So we still have our original careers, and we're getting this off the ground, which in and of itself is a career. So we're trying to juggle those three things: family, our careers, and the brewery. That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah. Time management's a huge one. And what are qualities that you guys possess that make you good business owners?
I think you agree with me, Dan. Tenacity.
Okay.
Yeah. The ability to not give up when it feels like you just want to throw your hands in the air and walk away.
Right.
To just, put your shoes back on, get out there and keep humping, man. Just, you got to give it your all. And even in the worst of times, you just, you have the vision, and you see what the potential could be, and you just keep pushing forward, man.
Right.
Yeah, we have a saying that if a wall gets in front of us, we don't go around it, we don't go over it, we go through it head first.
I love it.
And that's kind of been our mantra. Like
believe Brett when he tells you we've had a lot of obstacles in front of us.
Yes.
From day one.
Yes, yeah, you had put me on to a few prior to the interview, so yes, I believe it. And what do you think's been one of the biggest lessons you've learned so far?
So you can go first.
Question. That's a good question.
I would think I guess for me personally, because I've always been self-employed, it was a learning curve, but it worked. Is working with somebody with different opinions. And listening to them and working with them. Well, I'm talking about Dan, but
No, I know where you're going with this, Brett. I was kind of going to go into the same thought process, but I'll let you finish first.
When we first met each other, we butted heads. I had my idea, Long Beach Brewing Company, and he came in with his years of experience and his idea of a brewery.
Right.
And through a lot of fighting, it's the exact opposite now. We've learned how to value each other.
Choose our battles.
But even like value each other's opinions without without being angry about it, taking it personally.
Right.
Even though they might be different, are diametrically opposed.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna add to that by saying, I came into this. I had been home brewing for. Gosh, I started in 1994 as a home brewer, and I, was, involved with home brewing clubs. I was involved with, just like the brewing scene for a while. And then I like I said, I had dropped out of it, just completely stopped one day.
Right.
And, life took over, had to take care of kids, was going through a divorce, whatever. But, so when I came into the project, Brett already had this vision of what Long Beach Brewing Company was to him. And, since I came into the project and it was already Long Beach Brewing Company, you know, and I was asked to join in with him and our, you know, no longer partner at the time. I was asked to be a part of this project, and I came into it, you know, kind of with my own ideas and my own thoughts on what we should be doing. And, you know, again, Brett already had this whole vision in his head for a long time already.
Right.
So now, we weren't friends prior to this. It wasn't like we were buddies that we hung out and we were like, oh, let's open a brewery together. It was literally, hi, I'm Dan, I'm Brett. Okay, cool, let's go into business together.
Wow.
And it was like, all right, now we're both juxtaposing for, you know, this leadership position, if you will. And we butted heads a lot until we both found what our position in the company needed to be. You know, like, what are your strong points? What are my strong points? You're good at doing this. All right, you do that. You know, we didn't know that yet because we didn't know each other. You know,
we were doing.
Well, yeah, we had no idea how to, you know, transpose it into a commercial aspect of, you know, being a legitimate company that's out there putting beer out, you know, legally, you know what I mean? We were, you know, prior to that, we were homebrewers that thought we knew what we were doing.
Yeah, for sure.
We had no idea.
So to answer your question, that's kind of what it was that's the biggest, like, that was a big change for me. Always, I never listened to anybody except for my wife. And then, you know, so it was a big change for me. And it's worked out great. We really have an understanding of each other now. And we work well. We everything's constructive, nothing's destructive.
Right. Having an open mind, so to speak.
I tend to shoot from the hip a lot, and I'll throw an idea at Brett, and I'm like, all right, we got to do this. This is great. Come on, this is going to be amazing. This is going to be great. And then Brett comes in with the voice of reason. He's like, all right, Dan, okay. This is the reality of what you're talking about. And I'm like, no, screw it, man. Let's do it. And he's like, just take a pill, chill out for a little bit. You know, and you know, yeah, you know, so it's, you know, if it was up to me, I'm sometimes I'm just, the thought comes in my head and it's out my mouth before my brain even computed it.
Right. Running and gunning.
Yeah. And that's what Brett.
If it was up to him, there'd be like a Tarzan swinging in the bar and he'd have a singlet on swinging around and saying, woohoo, we're up.
So who do you think's inspired you both? I mean, I'm sure you've come in contact with a lot of people in the beer industry by now. Who do you think's inspired you the most in the beer industry?
Dan Moss is who Dan mentioned, who was the brewer at Fire Island.
Okay.
And then his then assistant brewer, John Green, were the two guys who really, really, there were a lot of people that have helped us, but those two guys, more than anyone, were just so gracious and so knowledgeable and so willing to give us that knowledge and share the knowledge with us. It's those two guys, for me, it was those two guys. There's many, many more, don't get me wrong, but those two guys were the big ones. They were the big ones. Still are, too.
Yeah.
Who inspired me the most in this industry has to be Sam Calgione from Dogfish Head.
Right.
He has absolutely made me think that the unachievable is achievable if you just believe in what you're doing. Had a great moment in time where I had the pleasure of, you know, meeting him and sitting down and talking with him for, you know, a couple of hours.
Right.
Just him, his wife, and his son, and my girlfriend and I, we sat in a room in his original brew house. He just talked to me like if I was like a younger brother.
Right.
And it was just, it changed my whole perspective on why I'm doing what I'm doing. And the integrity that I should have while I'm doing it. The people that Brett mentioned, Dan Moss and John Green, who I'd like to mention that John Green now has his own brand out in the market, called Stay Green Brewing.
Okay.
And John is a proprietor out of our facility as well.
And he manages Maltman Canning.
And he also manages Maltman Canning. That's right, Brett.
I'm sure he's doing very well too. If he has a canning business.
Yeah, they're doing great.
I believe it. I believe it.
It's a great model to have for us, especially like any growing brewery. You can't afford a canning machine like us at this point. It's a godsend.
Yeah,
to be able to have mobile canning like that.
Yeah, and during COVID, I mean, I'm sure that was just godsend. Right, exactly, insane.
Having beer in cans during like when the COVID crisis first hit,
right,
and us having having an inventory of cans available at that time was a savior for us, because now all of a sudden we lost all of our bar accounts. Obviously, all the bars had shut down, and now the state opened up, gave us the ability to literally deliver door to door, where we were taking turns loading, like we were taking orders over the phone or over social media. People were calling us and sending us messages and ordering beer, and we would load it up in our car and just get out there and freaking drive, man. Drive to people's houses right to their front door, bringing them 4-packs of beer.
That's
and
awesome.
It was fun. I mean, I had a lot of fun doing that. It was kind of like cool. It was like, all right, who's going to call today? How many deliveries are we going to have? And we would take turns. Like at the time we had our other partner with us, and we would all meet at the brewery in the morning, and we would just wait for the orders to come in, and be like, all right, you go out on this run, and then the next guy comes back, and you go out on this run, and we were just taking turns, just flying all over the place, driving beer around to people. So it was kind of fun. I mean, it was a good experience, to be honest with you, even though everything really sucked. But
you get to
the moment.
You get to act as Santa Claus, man. You get to drop off beer to people.
We were bringing happiness to people's doorsteps. People wanted beer, and they were afraid to go outside.
Right. And
we would get to their front door. We'd call them up and be like, all right, I'm going to leave it on the doorstep. And, we were sanitizing all the cans as we were dropping them off. We were spraying food grade sanitizer on the cans, dropping them off on the doorstep, delivering with gloves on. And, it was nuts, dude. It was nuts.
Of course. Yeah, I know. I was in the thick of it. I'm a firefighter, so responding to calls and all that and seeing it all, people terrified and whatnot. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for doing what you do, man, because it takes a lot of guts.
Well, thank you. Thank you for brewing beer. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. You guys are badasses. I got a couple of friends that do it, and it's and you guys. The great thing about it is you guys are like, it's just my job.
Yeah, right. I mean, listen, it's a paycheck, but sometimes you get that big moment, and it's nice, but you're helping people, and you also get paid for it, which is crazy. But
great attitude. Yeah. Great attitude.
So, is there a moment that sticks out for you that kind of is like a successful moment in your mind that you saw things going in the right direction?
Well, on my birthday 4 years ago, the equipment arrived.
That's a beautiful thing. Yes.
And that was it. We got the equipment from Portland, Oregon. We bought everything we have is American-made, American steel. And when that stuff came, it was a wonderful, wonderful day. That meant we were on our way. And then when Dan brewed our first beer, I was there for that, but it was that, when that first beer, from the whole time from our mission, because it took a long time. We got our equipment in and then get it all hooked up, plumbing, electric, everything that needed to be done to that first beer. That was amazing. When that first beer went out, that was a big, big moment for us.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that was. It's funny because I felt the joy in that exactly the same way that Brett did. It was like we had a year prior to that gone out to Oregon. We interviewed a few different manufacturers out there. We decided on one. We had the equipment made for us, and then it was the wait. When is it coming? When is it coming? When is it coming? And there were delays, and there was the upset, the agony of when is it coming? We got to we have deadlines, or at least we thought we had deadlines, but turned out it didn't really matter. But in our heads, we need to get beer made, we need to get product out, we need to start making money with this stuff. That I still remember that morning when I got to the brewery and we were waiting for the trucks, because they drove the equipment out from Oregon on big flatbed 18-wheeler trucks. And I remember us just waiting out front, waiting to watch and see if the trucks were coming down the road. And it was just really a cool moment, when we finally had everything hooked up, and I was like, all right, guys, we're firing up the brew house. And that guy, Dan Moss, that we keep mentioning, he had brewed on many, many different systems. He had brewed for like Brooklyn Brewery at one time. He had an extensive career in brewing at the time.
Nice background.
And I was like, begging him, I was like, you got to come down and at least brew our first batch of beer with us, because I have no idea what I'm doing on this equipment. It looked massive to me, and I was like, all right. Like I had said earlier in our conversation, we were very lucky with the companies we had contract brewed with, because the brewers allowed us to sit in on the brew sessions and told us exactly what they were doing and why the equipment, how the equipment works. And, now you go from home brewing and now you're on this huge equipment that has pumps, there's heat exchangers, there's just so much stuff that, from a home brewing scale, you don't have any of that stuff. It's like, you just don't. We brewed our first batch with Dan, and then the second batch was, all right, guys, I'm going to brew our second batch of beer, and I'm all alone. And it was this moment of, oh, shit, I better not screw this up, man.
Yeah, right.
It was scary. It was a scary moment. And you didn't. Oh, thank you, Brett. Thank you.
Perfect.
But it was a scary moment for me personally, being the brewer for the company, and it being my responsibility to make sure that we have liquid that goes into cans that is, viable and that people are going to enjoy. It was just mind-blowing experience for me. It was just like, oh shit, I'm really doing this right now.
It's awesome.
And it was real,
Yeah, right.
It wasn't like I was just homebrewing for my friends. I'm like, we're going to actually sell this shit.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, it was a great feeling. And I still, I got to be honest with you, every time I fire up the brew house, I still get that little butterfly in my stomach, like, wow, I'm really getting to do this,
Yeah, right.
And it's 4 years later and I'm still doing it, so I'm like, wow, this is cool.
It's a beautiful thing. So, I mean, I know you guys had a long road before that actually happened, before you got your brewing equipment, and it's been a while since, but how important is a mental break for you? Are you able to take those yet? And what does that look like?
Our mental breaks consist of, you know how the mantra when you always hear in the films, like there'll be a dealer and you're not supposed to get high on your old supply. Well, thank God we have our supply, because that's our mental break. We can't really.
Okay.
Yeah, until we get our tasting room approved, there's no downtime.
Right.
There's zero downtime. Like we're constantly thinking day and night about what we can do to bring in revenue.
Make money.
Tasting. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's for Brett and I. It's since we started this company legally, like selling beer legally. Right. Because I'm just gonna from 2014 till we sold our first beer in 2018. I'm just gonna forget about that for right now. But from 2018, when we sold our first keg of beer, till now, we've literally been working 7 days a week.
It's wild.
Whether it's our day jobs or there, we're just nonstop. Yeah.
Maybe a couple of like days off, like a day off here and there.
Right, sprinkled in.
But for the most part, the last 4 years has been nothing but 7 day a week humps where we just go, man. We just go.
The hustle is
amazing.
The hustle's real.
We have yet to have an ulcer, and we still have all our hair. So I don't know what's
perfect. Well, it's working. If it's working, it's working. It's great.
Yeah,
we're trying, and we're doing everything we can to make it be a successful story, if you will.
Absolutely.
We haven't given up. Like, I have many conversations with other friends in the brewing industry, and a lot of them are like, I can't believe you guys are still here 4 years into this with no tasting room, and you're selling it. You're selling beer, and you guys are managing to stay afloat where most companies would have folded by now.
It's awesome.
We're like, yeah, man, and then you hear, we'll talk to people sometimes, and they'll be like, I never heard of you guys. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's because we don't have a tasting room for you to come hang out in.
Right, yeah.
we open our tasting room to people come in, pick up beer. Obviously, we're allowed to do that, and we get visitors that stop through and they want to sample some stuff, and we're allowed to do that as well. But we can't have live music. We can't do there's a lot of things we can't do yet.
Yeah.
And we're just Brett and I are very anxious for that day. And when I'll be honest with you, Michael, when we hear the day that you guys are good to go, that's going to be an aha moment for me and Brett. It's going to be like, oh shit, now it's real.
Right.
Because up to now it feels real, but it doesn't feel real because without a tap room, sometimes it's just like, why are we still doing this?
Yeah, you're not actually interacting. You're not interacting with the people that are drinking. You're not seeing them drink it for the first time and whatnot. So I understand.
Right. Your beer will be out there, and you don't have that personal connection to your consumer. It makes it hard to have that personal connection with our consumer.
Gotcha.
But we seem to have some sort of a following because, we keep making more beer and they keep buying it. So
it's great.
It kind of feels good to knowing that,
Absolutely. So what was both of your guys' gateway beer into the craft beer world?
Mine was, I have a bunch of friends. There were a lot of reasons why I came up with the idea of having a brewing company, and one of them was I have a lot of friends, just the luck of the draw, own a lot of bars in Manhattan.
Okay.
And way before when I lived in Manhattan, I would go to my friend's bar, and he would get Garrett Oliver when he was brewing all the time at Brooklyn. He once a year he put out his own. I forget what it was called. Dan, you remember, like his Brewer Select series.
Okay.
At that point in my life, I didn't know much past import beers. I never liked Budweiser. I never liked any of those Miller or Natty Lights. I never liked those. I always liked imported beers.
Right.
I went to my buddy's place, and he said, here's from Brooklyn Brewery. It's the Brewer Select. He only puts out like one batch of these. Never had an IPA before. And this is before, I don't think anybody ever heard of an IPA at this point. This was years and years ago. This must have been like 15 years ago. And Garrett Oliver had made an IPA, and I drank it, and it absolutely blew my mind.
Right.
And I was like, holy shit, this is what beer can taste like. And that kind of really got the ball rolling for me.
That's awesome.
And for myself, I back like in my early 20s, I was playing in a rock band, playing like in a hardcore band in New York City, just doing like all these shows and stuff like that. And we had finished recording a demo, and the guy that owned the studio bought all these beers for us to drink. And I really wasn't a beer drinker at all. Like, I didn't really even like beer. To me, it was like, I'd rather smoke some weed.
Right.
That was like my 20s, just like, I'd rather do that. But whatever, these beers were there. And I tried an Anchor Steam beer. And I was like, Anchor Steam beer? What the hell is that? And I just was like blown away by this flavorful beer. I was like, wow, this is really good. I could drink this. This has a lot of flavor to it. Because prior to that, like Brett said, what was there to drink? And this is like, it's got to be about like 25 to 30 years ago, 30 years ago at least.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't 15 for me. It was a lot longer than that.
Yeah, it had to be longer than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was like 30 years ago,
Yeah.
And I drank an Anchor Steam beer, and I was like, holy shit, this is really good,
Yeah.
And then, I would look for different beers here and there, and I would go to a beer distributor and be like, hey, what do you got that's not, because back then there wasn't really there wasn't like a selection of craft breweries that you could pick from.
Nope.
There was, what came from Belgium, what came from Germany. And, then I got onto Delirium, and then I was just like, holy crap.
Yeah, Delirium's crazy.
This stuff is amazing. And, those two beers right there were like the benchmark of why I really fell in love with brewing beer.
Awesome. So
that was the beginning for me.
Gotcha. So what do you think's next for your brewery? What does the future look like for Long Beach?
Question mark.
Awesome.
No, we have to get this tasting room open. If we don't, then we have to pivot.
Right.
Giant get the tasting room, the future's solid. That tasting room, there are so many people that are just begging for us to have that tasting room open. That we know it's good. We know it'll do well. If we get the tasting room open, the future's going to be great for us. But we just don't know yet.
Okay. Yeah.
We're in a state of limbo, if you will.
Right.
We're just kind of holding the reins right now. And we're waiting for our hearing date with the town of Hempstead. We're just hoping that everything goes smoothly, which, the first time it did not. So we're hoping that this time it will be in our favor. We're doing everything by the book, and we're, just trying to do the right thing and create, an atmosphere. We're in Oceanside, which is right now, we believe Oceanside will be a new mecca for beer, because you've got 3 breweries in walking distance of each other. There's a winery now. There's a distillery now. Just one town in Nassau County on the South Shore with 3 breweries, a distillery, and a winery.
Right. Yeah. It's awesome.
Less than 15 miles from New York City, and a train ride that stops literally at almost every brewery. So it's like pretty cool. And Brett and I are very optimistic about what the future of this area that we're in could be. It's a little industrial park, and we have a lot of hopes for what it can become, and we're just trying to do things the right way.
Yeah,
that's really it.
I hear. That's just keep on trucking, man. Slow and steady wins the race, and fingers crossed for that hearing.
If we go any slower, they'll start throwing shovelfuls of dirt over us.
So if somebody came to you and asked you for advice on opening their own place, what would you tell them?
Well, I would say if you want to open up your own place, you have to be committed.
Right.
You can't go at it half-assed. You can't be like, there's no way it could be a hobby. You just won't, you'll bury yourself instantly. You bury yourself monetarily, because you have to put out money no matter what to start the business. And if you're not willing to commit 100%, not 99, not 98, 100%, it's not going to happen. But,
there's lots of sacrifices you need to make.
But
I believe it.
The rewards are great. If you're into it and you have a great product, you guys, you touched on it before with being Santa Claus during COVID. It's like, you pour somebody a beer and they like your beer, and you see that smile because they like your beer. That's a great feeling.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I'm sure.
It's a great feeling when you hear somebody go like, wow, this is really good. I didn't expect it to be that good. Or, it's not what I expected. This is amazing. It's like you feel there's a sense of pride there. There's just a really good sense of pride.
I believe it.
But like Brett said, if you're going to get into this business, you better be getting into it because you absolutely love it. You need to be prepared to sacrifice. For instances, the day my son was born, Brett was away on business because he's an editor, and he had to be away. I think you were working was it the Olympics, Brett? I don't remember what it was.
I think it was the Olympics, yeah.
And my other partner at the time was not available either. And my son William was born at 8:20 in the morning. At 11:30 in the morning, I was delivering a keg of beer.
Oh my God!
Holy shit. Yeah, I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, I gotta go make a delivery, and she just looked at me and she said, I understand. Go. Just come back right away.
Amazing.
Yeah,
it's an amazing woman.
I'm taking a nap, and the baby was going to be sleeping. She's like, I need to take a nap and I need to rest for a little bit. So I'm going to close my eyes. The baby's going to be with the nurses for a little bit. Go do the delivery, come back.
Awesome.
And I did.
I think Dan touched on something there too. Is whoever you're with too has to be on board.
Right. Absolutely.
Real difficult. We're lucky we both have. My wife is great. She's very understanding. She's very supportive. Because I'm not home much. between my regular job at the brewery.
Of course.
So that's a big part of it too. That's a big part of it. If you have somebody else in your life,
Right.
If it wasn't for this tasting room, other than that, it's such a great thing. We Dan and I both love doing it. Absolutely love doing it.
Gotcha. And did you guys happen to have a funny story for me?
I had been home brewing for a while with our former partner. We were just home brewing, and things were going well. People were loving our beers. And I don't know if you know, have you ever heard of Irish Day in Long Beach?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so Irish Day is, just for anybody listening, Irish Day is Long Beach's version of St. Patty's Day. Because St. Patty's Day isn't enough for Long Beach. Long Beach needs another one. So they have Irish Day. And the block I moved into, we were new in the neighborhood. The block I moved into, that's where the parade would stage. So all the fire trucks, the bands, they would all be on my block, like right in front of my house. So my wife and I started throwing parties every year. After Sandy, it wiped out most of our equipment. I mean, most of our ingredients. The equipment is still good. So me and our former partner, we put together whatever was left. We just threw it in the pot, and we called it "Suck It, Sandy." It was 10% ABV, I think.
Right.
So people at like 10, we start the party at 10 o'clock before the parade starts. People are going nuts. I have I don't know if you could picture this, but I have a porch on the second floor and a long staircase in the front. So everybody's up on the porch going nuts, going, "Oh, the Suck It, Sandy's great, Brennan's great." And there's a band sitting on the street waiting to go. They have the kilts on. It's a fireman's band. They have the kilts on, their bagpipes, the drums, and they're just sitting there sad, looking up at this party like right in front of them, going nuts at 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. So the chief comes up. The chief walks up. Our kegerator's up at the top of the stairs. He comes walking up the stairs in his kilt. He says, "What do you got there?" And I go, It's my beer." He goes, "What do you mean it's your beer?" I said, "I made it." He goes, "You made this beer? Can I taste it?" I said, "Sure." He takes a sip. He brings it down the stairs, goes to the band. The band all takes a sip. And then there was a line of kilts going up to the kegerator.
That's awesome.
That's when I turned to my buddy, because I'd been thinking about it for a while, because everybody liked our beers. And I said, "That's it. It's time for Long Beach Brewing Company right there."
Awesome.
And that was the aha moment that I really decided to go all guns blazing to get this thing open. And that was, I think, 12 years ago when I came. That's how long it's taken.
Wow. Well, it's a phenomenal story. It's awesome. That's an awesome aha moment, man.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
So,
an aha moment with kilts. Come on. It's great.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So,
your boys, it was a bunch of firemen, so that's even better.
Yeah, right. There you go. It mixes in perfectly. It was meant to be.
Yeah.
I have a little segment called Quick Fire 5. 5 quick questions, beer related. Ready?
We'll do our best.
Yeah. Here we go. Somebody comes, well, they can't come into your brewery, but if they could come into your brewery, what's one of the beers you'd recommend they try?
Go ahead, Dan.
Pilsner. Have our Pilsner.
Have your Pilsner.
I got to say, and mine is our brand new one, Of Course. We just made a hazy IPA called Of Course.
Of course?
I'm good. I'm drinking right now.
All right. Favorite brewery other than your own?
Dogfish Head for me.
All right.
Russian River Brewing Company.
Russian River. All right. Favorite style of beer?
Oh, man.
There isn't one. There isn't one.
Favorite style of beer. Shit. That's a hard one, man.
Yeah, I don't have one.
If you had to pick a beer to choose right now out of the fridge, what should it be?
In my fridge right now is a can of our it's one of our beers. It's a Bach that we did, Doppelbock with Dubco Brewing Company. We did a collaboration called Liquid Bread.
Awesome. All right. Barrel aged, imperial, or both?
Why not? Both. Who cares?
Both. All right.
Barrel aged for me.
Barrel aged. I'm a big.
I don't really enjoy super high alcohol. I don't really enjoy beers that are above like 8%. You know, it's a rare find for me.
Right.
That I enjoy something that is really high octane. I'm a lightweight.
That's why we're great partners.
Yeah,
I find it all.
The happy medium. And you have one keg of beer to hold you over for a 2-week quarantine. What beer are you choosing?
For me, it would be Dogfish Head's Festina Peach.
Ooh.
And mine's Pliny the Elder.
Pliny the Elder. All right. Well, gentlemen, that is all I have for you. Thank you.
Mike, it's been a damn pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much, Dan, Brett. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time, Mike.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun getting I guess, reminisce and just get things off our, just let it out sometimes. Sometimes you have all this, have all this history of what you've been doing in your head. And you kind of, there are moments, I guess, like we were saying earlier, there are moments where you're just like, why am I doing this?
Right.
Talk it out and let it out. And you're like, oh, okay, now I remember why I was doing it. I really like this. I really enjoy this.
Right. I'm thinking maybe I should start a therapy brewery podcast instead.
Yes. Trust me, I know a lot of frustrated brewers out there.
I believe it. Well, I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew World Order podcast, here with Dan Scandiffio and Brett Blau, co-owners of Long Beach Brewing Company in Oceanside, New York. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for listening to my interview with Dan Scandiffio and Brett Blau, co-owners of Long Beach Brewing Company in Oceanside, New York. Whether you're passing through, you live in the area, or just visiting a friend nearby, definitely check them out. Also, give them a follow on social media while you're at it as well, so when they do open that tap room, you can swing on by and have a beer with the guys. Every other Sunday, I'll be releasing a new episode, so subscribe and you'll never miss one. Unless you want to miss one, then you shouldn't subscribe. But I really think you should subscribe, because then you'll never miss one. See how that works out? What a concept. Also, give us a follow on social media while you're at it, because I can use the followers so I can impress all my friends. The one that I have. Okay, it's my mom. Well, I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew World Order podcast. You stay safe out there.